What's up, guys? So today I'm going to go over the weekly outlook of NASDAQ and kind of the market and what I think could be happening and a little bit of seasonality things that we have going on as well. So let's get started into it. First and foremost, again, like always, we're going to go over the trend journal that we follow on a day-to-day basis. Keep an eye this week on how to create a trend journal. I'm going to make a full video going over how I create this trend journal, how to use it, and what it's for. So keep an eye on that over the next couple days. So first we went back into a uptrend to up a bullish to neutral uptrend trend on the 13th when we broke above our 21-day moving average. Now we're kind of holding and going to have a little bit of a push above it as well. And now so we are in day three of our uptrend. If you remember last week, we were on Monday was around day 15 and we were saying, we are getting late into the downtrend. We were day 15 on 15 days into the previous downtrend. The previous downtrend before that had 10 days and then before that it had 11. So that was kind of been our average lately. It's right around 10 to 12 days. So we were already in a late stage downtrend by the beginning of last week. So we were already thinking that we could have a bounce. We already thought that we were going to have a bounce because we were in the later stage downtrend on our trend journal. So that's one way that you can use this journal. I'll be going more in depth into it as well over the next few days. So we had a consolidation on the 16th, which was really clean. Something that we want to see. We want to see, I'm going to go over the couple scenarios that we have and what we really want to see the most. Do have our low day above the 21 EMA, which is a huge key that we want to see and hold. And then there are a couple yellow flags, which we'll go over. There's a seasonality yellow flag, and then also another couple more yellow flags. The main leaders are finance, metals, and China. Gold did exactly what we said it was going to do last week and hit all-time highs. China is actually doing well for once, and then solar, energy, and home builders have been the laggards and not doing very well at all. So let's get into some charts. First and foremost, we're going to go with the NASDAQ here. Move my face. So the NASDAQ, last week, we had this huge kind of upside reversal.
What? Why did you have stickers in your phone?
Gabby did it. So sorry, my kids would ask me a question. Last week we had this huge upside reversal, the previous week, and we were thinking, hey, we're probably gonna get past this fair value gap, invert it, and continue to the upside, at least to that 4-hour fair value gap we hit over here. So that was what we were looking for last week. And that's exactly what we did. We had continuation move all the way up to this 4-hour fair value gap and ended up inverting it. So what do we want to look for this week? Right now, you see we are above a 21-day moving average, which is where we change our trend. Once you get above your 21-day moving average, you change the trend back into a 0 to neutral, a bullish to neutral, and then continue higher. So now we do want to see a little bit of a consolidation. So there's a couple of scenarios that I'm watching for, and it'll be something similar like this. 1 second, baby, I'm doing a video. Or so we have this scenario right here where we get above it and then we go sideways and continue higher. And then the next scenarios that I'm looking for are something similar to these where we get above it and then we just kind of fail. And that's kind of going to be the determination of whether we continue up to the highs or whether we're just going to kind of pull back and come back to these lows. The red flags that I am seeing are the 50-day moving average right here. So we're still kind of below this 50-day. We want to see a good strong push above it. It is starting to trend to the upside. So that is kind of a positive as well. And then seasonality wise, we have a yellow flag as well. And that would just be from September is seasonality wise one of the worst months in the market. So it's kind of makes me nervous going into September, but we'll see what happens. I'm not going to predict anything. I'm just kind of being cautious and letting the market show me what to do. I still stick with my trend, stick with my rules, stick with my methods that I've done that are tried and true, and let the seasonality kind of show its hand if it happens. I don't use seasonality as a potential trade, but I use price action and seasonality as a thought. So next we've created two fair value gaps on the way up here. So a breakaway gap here, and then a nice fair value gap that we just had above the 21 EMA that we created as of Friday. And so that's where I'm going to be looking for to go back into is this top one right here, come back down. I want to see kind of a consolidation either right here above or a small trickle down, like no displacement, but a good sideways action like that to get into it. And that could take a couple days even. We don't have a lot of news next week. So the main news we have is there's FOMC minutes on Wednesday. I already went through all of this. So there's FOMC minutes on Wednesday, and the minutes are hit and miss. Sometimes they do something, sometimes they don't. So you really have to just be aware of it. FOMC minutes at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. Pacific. And then on Thursday, I don't think there's anything. There's jobless claims on Thursday, which have been making a small move lately. And then on Friday, Powell does speak. So Fed Chair Powell speech on Friday at 7 a.m. Pacific time, 10 a.m. Eastern time. So very little news next week, not until later in the week. So Monday, Tuesday may not be the best days to trade. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday may kind of be those days where we look to trade more. So I want to see it come into this fair value gap, hold, show that it's respecting it, and then see a good push, at least up to this roughly 20,100 level. And so if we go on a weekly chart, there is a small fair value gap here on a weekly chart, starting right at this high, and then so a fair value gap would be candle here, a wick, a gap, and then the wick right there. So that's your fair value gap. And so that's the weekly fair value gap. This could be where we're looking to go to on the weekly chart. And so I'll be watching to see how we react at this 50-day. If we're going to pull back, if we invert this level right here, then we could probably see coming back to these lows, at least to this fair value, this bottom fair value gap, 18,800 roughly. If we hold this, then we look to come back up to the 20,000 level. So those are the kind of two scenarios that we're watching. And that fair value fair value gap on the daily chart matches up perfectly with the 200 EMA on a 4-hour chart and a 4-hour fair value gap and the inversion of this 4-hour fair value gap as well. So this 4-hour fair value gap is now inverted. It got disrespected. And inside that 4-hour fair value gap, in right at about the midpoint as well, which gives it even more confluence, is this 4-hour fair value gap here. And that's also the daily fair value gap and also the 4-hour 200 EMA. So this level, 19,413 to 19,200, that is going to be a very important level to watch for this week. If we can hold it, we're probably going back up to this high here at 20,070, 20,100, right around that level. So that's what we're looking at for NASDAQ. Next for the ES. There's my watch list. The outlook here. ES looks a little better in my opinion, and for one reason and one reason only. It is above the 50-day. That is kind of like, that is an institutional moving average. When we use a 50-day moving average, the 21 moving average is my trend moving average. But the 50-day moving average is an institutional moving average that you see institutions using as a line in the sand most of the time. Once things get above the 50-day, they're more likely to buy and they're more likely to continue higher. So we are above the 50-day on the ES and on SPY. I want to see that same similar scenario, either a consolidation right around here like this, or a failure. Right here, notice we barely got above the 50-day and then failed it. So one of those two things is going to happen. So it's going to be similar to, and notice this is the end of August into September. That was exactly 1 year ago. We had a good push the end of August to the upside, and then September we failed. So that is a possible scenario. So I'm keeping all these different scenarios in my head and then letting the price action tell me which one is going to play out. So same thing on ES. We want to see this fair value gap get held or this fair value gap get held. Most like I really want to see this top one get held. Right at the 200 EMA, right at this 4-hour fair value gap, right at the 4-hour inverted fair value gap. Same scenario, same absolute same thing. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. Gold did exactly what we said though. It went to all-time highs, and we were looking at this 3 weeks tight pattern, how we were starting to get tighter and tighter price action as we were going. We were nice, a lot of nice upside reversals, nice top bottom wicks here, and that kind of made me think that we were going to go to the highs, and that's exactly what it did. We came down and we created a fair value gap on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We came into that fair value gap and respected it. And then Friday we continued higher. So I would like to see a stronger push to create a fair value gap outside this high. So notice we barely got a closing candle above the previous all-time highs. I want to see a good, strong push above it instead of just what we've done before. We get a closing candle, then push down. Get a closing candle, push down. But this is getting shorter and shorter every time. It's getting shorter in the time where it's tapping it. 38 days, 50 days, 33 days, I think this was. 32 days. So every time it's hitting it, it's getting shorter and shorter, which means that this resistance, this band of resistance here, is getting weaker and weaker. And so now it's more likely to break out. We have a swing low right here that we created a higher low as it's going. So I would like to see it continue instead of fail. If it fails, if it creates a fair value gap right here and fails, inverts that fair value gap, we can probably see it coming down to this 2400 level again. So UJ, very similar to what we were talking about again last week. We wanted to see this kind of played out what we wanted, but not exactly. We got a fair value gap outside of it and then immediately got rejected right as soon as that. So could turn that into a manipulation block. We got above this fair value gap, but didn't respect it when we inverted it. We inverted it, but didn't come back and use it as support. So that makes me think that we are going to see lower levels on UJ. Same with DXY here. DXY, we are at the 200 EMA. Almost all so DXY, Euro, and GBP are all at the 200 EMA on the weekly chart. And please don't. And so that's something that we could see some consolidations and could see kind of a choppy movement, which is completely normal. We did not get a close below this low on DXY though. So that could show for some sort of bounce, but we'll have to wait and see. I think this is going to take a couple days. I think if we kind of just start displacing on Monday or Tuesday, then that'll show its hand. But if Monday and Tuesday have a good bounce, it's going to take a little longer, and it's going to have to be patient to wait, really see what DXY wants to do. To me, it looks like it wants to come down to this low here. But where it's going first, that's the thing we have to wait for. So on the 4-hour, what we want to see is this fair value gap got inverted. We want to see that continue to get inverted and held. And then we did create a small fair value gap here as well. So we want to see this bear shorter flow continue to hold and continue to kind of show its hand. And that would be the direction for DXY. Euro last week played out exactly as we expected. Euro and GBP are both right at this 200 EMA on a weekly as well, coming to the upside though, instead of to the downside on DXY. But we did have a good push out of this fair value gap. So we created a fair value gap on Monday, Tuesday. So Monday here, Tuesday created the fair value gap, Wednesday confirmed it, came into the fair value gap on Thursday, and then Friday started to have a push out. So we want to see us again stronger push to the upside to confirm this fair value gap. We want to see a fair value gap get created as we break this previous high from Tuesday. Yeah, from Wednesday. So I want to see a fair value gap get created as we take that high. and then our target is going to be this high up here. GBP, this one played out absolutely perfect last week. If you watch my video on the weekly outlook, I said GBP is going to be most likely the cleaner play than Euro. It was in a fair value gap on a weekly chart. It had an upside reversal for the week as opposed to Euro had a downside reversal for the week last week. And we're above a right at and almost above a 200 EMA on a weekly chart as well. So our thought last week was GBP is going to have a cleaner move, and that's exactly what it did. We have external liquidity come and take the internal liquidity, and now what we're looking for, external liquidity again. So bare minimum this 1.3 level, and then next target would be this high up here, 1.314. So we came, tapped the 200 EMA, just like we want to see, formed a fair value gap out of it, held that fair value gap, and now the next candle, ideally, we want to see a fair value gap created on this candle here. So this is one candle, two candles. So tomorrow, Monday, on Monday's close, we want to see this be a three candle for the fair value gap. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And so that's how I'm labeling the candles for the fair value gaps lately. So I want to see this Monday create the fair value gap and then look to target this high on GBP. So this one I think is going to be very clean. I think it's going to be low hanging fruit taking out this high. That's what we're looking at for this week. That's what we expect to happen. We're going to be streaming every single day, Monday through Friday at market open in Playbit. So feel free to join us, see me there, ask me questions. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Like and subscribe for my channel, please. It's definitely helping the algorithm. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.